But you're staying up, late. You're doing meeting. We had an 8:30 meeting. We had a 12 o'clock meeting. We had sessions and breakouts and all this stuff. It was just an incredible weekend, incredible time. And there was a moment where Chip encouraged and instructed everybody, all the students, to share their story in 3 minutes. You probably heard this kind of method. It's a great way to practice and to share your testimony, share your story. He says you take the first minute to talk about life before you knew God. You take the second minute to talk about how you came to know God. And then you take the third minute to talk about how life has been since you know God, right? And even for adults, even for me sometimes in certain situations, it can be awkward, to share or talk. So we're trying to train these students to be able to naturally share their story. And one of the second ways we had to do it was just to mingle. They had to go around. There's 39 student leaders, and they had to go find a student that they did not from their own church, and they had to share their story kind of conversation style. Well, I had participated in the first one. I'm that adult at these conferences, Mr. Pastor Nate, that has to be in the middle of it with these students, and the kids absolutely love it. And so, but this one, I'm like, what? I'm going to kind of sit back and I'm going to kind of observe how they do it, what they do, all this stuff. I created a moment to be able to sit back and listen and to hear from God. And wouldn't you know, when we allow ourselves to take that moment, I was thinking, man, I need to go charge my phone, or I should go start packing and getting rid of it. No, God's like, just shut up, Nate. Gracie's name here, I can say it. Shut up, Nate. Sit still and listen. Just be, right? So I'm like, all right. So I just be. And I'm sitting back, and I created a moment to hear from God, because wouldn't you know, this Asian little 7th grade boy that I did not know at all before this trip, he walks up to me, man, and I'm sitting in this chair, and he comes up and sits right next to me and says, hey man, he knew my name, so he's like, hey Nate, can I tell you my story? I'm like, what are you going to say? No, man, sorry, dude, I'm listening to God right now, okay? Of course, man, of course, I'd love to hear your story. And this 7th grade little boy from Morganton, North Carolina, you want to know what his name is? I'm like, hey, what is your name, man? He goes, Juice, man, just call me Juice. All right, Juice, tell me your story. And so Juice starts telling me about how his parents were on drugs, and he was told the story that it was rough, and that as soon as he was born, that he was taken away from his parents. His mom didn't want him. He was strung out on drugs and all this stuff, and that him and his 2 sisters were going to be in the foster care system and all these things. But he's telling me it like, it's just a part of my story, and just explain it. And he gets to where he got adopted, man. He says, and so my new dad, man, he's a good guy. He would take us to church. I'm like, oh, that's cool, man. And he goes, and one time on a Saturday, one of my sisters said, I want to get saved at church tomorrow. How cool is that for a little kid to think at church, in their little mind and hearts, they need to come to church and get saved. And so the dad had talked about the sister was a little older. Well, naturally, what's the little brother going to do when he hears his sister say, I want to get saved at church tomorrow? Me too. He's like, when I heard, and the way he's telling me it was so mature and wise. I mean, way beyond 7th grade years. And he's like, so yeah, Nate, I heard my sister was going to get saved. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to get saved too. But he goes, my dad knew enough, though, that he asked me, he said, well, son, do you really know what that means to be saved? And I was like, no, I have no idea. It's just sister's getting saved, and I'm going to get saved. He's so honest. And he's like, but then my dad, he goes, Nate, guess what? I'm like, what? He goes, my dad started telling me what it means to get saved. And you know what? I'm like, what? I'm like on the edge of my seat, like just trying not to bawl for his kicks and make fun of me and never talk to me again. So I'm just like, what, man, what? He goes, the more my dad told me about what it meant to get saved and what Jesus did for me, the more I wanted to get saved. And I was just like, wow. He goes, so I did, man. I got saved, and life has been so awesome, and I can tell people my story. It doesn't matter if you're adopted. It doesn't matter where you come from, that Jesus came in my heart and I'm saved. And I'm just like, whoa, awesome. And I just got to thinking, man, how many times do we miss hearing from God? God spoke to me through that young guy, man. He spoke to me through Juice. How cool is that? That is so cool. And as he shared, I just thought, you know what, Lord, this was a moment of worship. This was a moment of connecting with God by hearing a student share his story and talk about the good, the bad, and what Jesus done in his life. That's worship, man. And Becky already said it. We cannot just look at worship as a set setting or a one situation. Worship is a constant lifestyle, a constant mindset. We need to be listening to God constantly. And if I would have made myself busy or whatever, I wouldn't have been in that chair and been able to hear this story and hear from God. You guys know what it's like, man, to recognize a voice that you love, like maybe your moms or your dads or your kids. Well, sure enough, last night when I got home, man, it was another situation, another analogy of what it means to know God's voice and to hear God's voice and that connection we have when we know it's God. I got home, I think it was like 8:30, 9 o'clock, whatever, and I got all my stuff and I came to the door and I couldn't get to my keys, so I knocked on the door and I recognized the voice I heard next. And it was little Grace at 4 years old, and I heard her saying, "Mom, is that Nate? Is that Nate? Is that Nate?" And when I recognized the voice and I heard what she was saying, the joy just immediate, like, oh man, that is so cool. I knew the voice. I couldn't see her. The door was shut. The windows were boarded, all this stuff. So I couldn't see her at all. But I recognized her voice and I heard what she was saying, and that just filled my heart with joy. And of course, as we opened up the door, it is Nate, you know, and the hugs and stuff was so cool. Hayden must have been tired. He was kind of like not feeling it. Now this morning he cries if I don't hold him. But so I gave him a big hug and I thought, wow, when God speaks to us, when God hears even our voice worshiping Him, can you imagine what that feels like? Can you imagine for God who loves us so much to speak and to know that I'm speaking to my children and they recognize my voice and it's changing their lives? That's got to be just the ultimate amazing thing. And so last night it just reminded me of what it's like to recognize a voice that you love and you care about and want to acknowledge. It's so cool how God works because we can use our voice to acknowledge God. That is a part of worship. And so I want to encourage us, man, just in worship to say thank you. To take time. Worship means so many different things. It could be a quiet moment where you're just quiet and listening. It could be singing a song at the top of your lungs. It could be in a prayer. It could be just talking to God. There's so many moments we have to worship. Everything we do in our lives should be an act of worship. When we take up our tithes and offerings, it's not just something to check off the list and pay the bills. It is a moment to worship and connect with God and be faithful to His Word. When we greet one another, man, that's fellowship. That is Christ's fellowship. We say hug and neck, shake a hand. I don't know what y'all do. Maybe do a chest bump, whatever, man. That is a moment to connect with each other and an act of worship, not for each other, but for God, which is really crazy. When we think about whose voice is guiding us and leading us in worship, I want you to think about this. Whose voice do you recognize the most? When it comes to your life, I mean, just be honest. Whose voice do you recognize the most? Whose voice do you spend the most time with? Whose voice do you know immediately? Unfortunately, for some of us, it might just be our own voice, right? And I know what I want. I know what I need to do. I kind of have my own agenda. I've got my own plan. I can listen to Nate's voice real well. I know when it's me telling me to do this or that. Another one, especially for our young people, man, other voices, other influences. Golly, they can lead us so many different directions. If we're just listening to our own voice or we're just listening to everybody else's voice around us, that is not going to create these moments of worship. That's going to create chaos. And it's going to create loneliness and being lost and trying to follow and please everybody. My prayer for this entire series is that by the end of it, by the end of even today, that we would leave here recognizing God's voice more than any other voice in our lives. And that would mean that we take the time and we get to know God and spend it with Him. So that's the who. Whose voice is guiding you? Whose voice are you listening to? But what? What shouldn't we worship? Again, we know, have no other false gods before me. We know that we shouldn't worship things. We got all that. That'd be the non-Forrest Gump answer, okay? We're going with the Forrest Gump answers this morning. So instead of just a typical what, the question is now is what isn't worship about? Think about that. What is it not about? And the two main things that God put on my heart to share, we're going to look at a scripture. And I watch a lot of sermons online. I've never heard of a pastor use this scripture for worship. So I hope it connects because it's what God put on my heart to do. But it says, what isn't worship about? There's two main things. And you guys know, man, I'm big on this. Even as associate youth pastor, as pastor, anything, any church, I want us to know, as much as I want to grow, as much as I love every one of you here, as much as I want to make Lifespring a place that you enjoy and want to come to, that's a fact. But at the end of the day, guess what? Worship is not about you. It's not about me. It's not about us trying to come in and just feel good and be like, wow, that was pretty cool. I had a friend, a guy that I knew that lived in South Florida, and he wasn't saved at all. And he had told me, and I've been praying for him to get into a church, and he had called me one time, yeah, man, I'm going to church. And I said, oh, that's cool. I was like, I hope you stick with it. He goes, yeah, I've been going a few weeks, and I'm going to keep going because I haven't heard the pastor say anything to upset me yet. And I was like, well, I kind of said, okay, cool. But in my spirit, I'm like, is that a good thing? You know, shouldn't we, not necessarily, I don't want to upset you guys, that's not my goal here, but shouldn't the Word of God challenge us and make us a little uneasy and make us a little uncomfortable? Now, style, things like that, yes, you want to go to a church that fits your style, all that, that's good, that's cool. But when it comes to why we worship, when it comes to why we gather, if it's just for us to feel good or for us just to kind of get our church fix in, we're missing the mark completely. Worship, our walk with Christ, it's not about you. It's all about God. There's too many people that want to base their faith and base how they worship on what makes me feel good and what's going good for me. How about other people? If we're worshiping or if we're spending our time with God or we're only being good or whatever that God calls us to do because of other people around us, how far is that going to take us? Worship's not about you and it's not about everybody else. Worship is about this opportunity you have to connect with a God that loves you. But what does it take to do that? This scripture, again, it's kind of different for the topic of worship, but hopefully it brings everything together and makes sense at the end. A picture, I titled this scripture, A Picture of Worship. To me, this is what worship looks like. You've got to get past the first verse because you're going to be thinking, what? Mark chapter 5, verse 25 through 34. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. Immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. 12 years of indescribable suffering, just pain, of seclusion, of confusion, of hurt, of pain. 12 years, and she touched his cloak and was healed. At once, Jesus realized the power had gone out from him. He turned around to the crowd and asked, who touched my clothes? Picture that for a second. Kind of the disciples will refer to this, but can you imagine like you're in a crowd at like Carolyn's and you're waiting to get on the roller coaster and there's like 100 people around you and all of a sudden you're like, oh, someone touched me. If I'm with you, I'm going to say, no poop, Sherlock, you know. Very good. There's a bunch of us around here, you know. We're all kind of in there. Did you notice that? No? Okay, it's all right. Sit here. I thought you would be so proud of me. Never mind. All right. So, yeah! Woo! Anyway, I say the C word too much. I was told not to say the C word, so I'm trying. All right. So, in the crowd that people touch and all around, and so his disciples say the same thing in Bible version. They say, you see the people crowding against you, his disciples answered, and yet you can ask, who touched me? But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. See, this wasn't just a crowded touch. Jesus felt the power leave his body. He knew that someone had great faith and specifically touched him for a reason. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with fear told him the whole truth. He said to her, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering. When I think about worship, and I think about what worship isn't about, I think about what keeps us from having these intimate, these powerful, this encounter with God. Again, not just here on Sundays, but throughout the week. If you think about it, I read a quote actually this morning, just scrolling some Facebook, getting ready and stuff, and I saw this quote that said, for true change to happen in your life, something must change every single day. I thought about that. I'm like, for truth. Now, this was talking kind of like about probably like health, you know. If you want to truly lose weight, you can't. Picture this, and we do this as a church. You guys know where I'm going. But if my goal is to lose weight, but I only eat healthy and go to the gym on Sundays, and I do eat however I want the rest of the week and do it, and the only time I'm focused and committed to better health is one day a week. Well, let's throw Wednesday night in there. Let's throw a small group night in there, Tuesday, Thursday. So maybe 2 days a week I'm committed to losing weight. How much weight do you think I'm going to lose? Not much. How much muscle do you think I'm going to gain? Not much. Your walk with Christ, your moments of worship must take place throughout the week, throughout your day. It cannot just be a Sunday morning, a Thursday night, a Wednesday night experience. But what keeps us from that? Think about this woman that was bleeding. This woman that had this unimaginable disease. It made her secluded. She was not even allowed to go into the main downtown area. She wasn't allowed to be around groups of people. She didn't want to be. I mean, think about it. There's 100 different reasons that kept her outside of the town, away from everybody because of what she was going through. If she was worried about her own reputation or her own image, would she have ever put herself in a place to touch Jesus? Would she would have ever came out? Imagine what everybody was said. If she was worried about everyone in the crowd and what they were probably saying, can you picture it? Word probably got around town who she was. You know, people probably knew. I mean, let's just kind of get real. She probably smelled bad. Who knows? All these things. And if she was just listening to the crowd and what the people were saying, imagine this. People are probably, we're so selfish these days. They wanted Jesus so bad that they didn't probably want anybody else to come in there and get in the crowd and get in their way. Hey, we're that way in line at the grocery store, man. There was a lady the other day, had more than 15 items in the 15-item line. I about blew a gasket, man. I'm like, no, this is 3 items or less. What are you doing? I was kidding. I said, man, here's a Lifespring card. Go enjoy all your But here's the thing. We get so caught up in our own stuff, and in this case, if she worried about the crowd, if she worried about her own self-image, her own self, she never would have put herself in a place to touch Jesus. And I've got to tell you guys to come on up. We're going to wrap up this. But what is worship, man? The who and the what is so important, because worship is exactly what this woman experienced. Worship is receiving the power of God. Worship is having that moment where you touch Jesus and He touches you and you are cleansed and you are clean, and you have this moment just to say thank you. You have this moment just to listen. You have this moment just to lift your hands, or whatever you do in your time of worship, wherever you're at. This woman experienced that. And so the final question, what we have to think about is, we know what could have kept this woman from doing what she did, but she didn't let it. What's keeping you guys? What's keeping you specifically from experiencing the power of God every single day of your lives? Are you too busy? Are you running around? You got too much going on? You look back and think, man, I didn't spend any time with God today. I didn't set myself up to hear from Him today. Man, maybe, just maybe we don't want to have that time, because guess what? That intimate moment with God means we got to stop sleeping around. We got to stop doing this. We got to stop saying those words. We got to stop drinking, whatever. And so all of a sudden we're like, man, if I encounter Jesus, He's going to do His part, and He's going to want me to do my part. And I'm not ready. So maybe that's why we don't worship God every single day and every single moment. But what's keeping you? What's keeping us from being a church that just says, God, I just need you. I want you. We're going to do a song, man, and I specifically changed it around a little bit. I want to do this one at the end. We did this song yesterday at the conference too, which was pretty cool. But this song that says ever be, man, think about that. Your praise will ever be on my lips. That means no matter what, no matter how I feel, no matter what I'm suffering through, no matter what I'm going through, no matter how many bad choices I made in my past, your praise, my worship, my life to you will forever be on my lips. I'm not going to stop praising you no matter what. And that's got to go past Sunday. It's got to go past church. That's got to be in your heart. It's got to be in your soul. You've got to be willing to worship God. And you've got to recognize His voice and connect with Him in a way that only God can connect with you with. And I want you guys to think about and get rid of the what is it not about, and stop thinking that worship's just for me to feel good. Worship's just because everybody else around me is doing it. Worship is because I need to connect with the Savior of God that loves me. And just like that woman that got to Jesus no matter what it took, you guys take these moments to connect with Him. Regardless of what it looks like, regardless of what it sounds like, have these moments throughout your day, throughout your week, to experience the worship that only comes from the relationship with God. trying to lead it and put it all together. He said, well, man, would you be willing to teach 2 sessions and 2 of the breakouts? I was like, yeah, man. He goes, well, this is what I want you to do. He's like, you connect with so many different adults, like other youth leaders and volunteers all over North and South Carolina. He goes, there's a problem, though. With so many churches being so far away, it's hard to connect with each other. He's like, all I need you to do is get a bunch of adults to connect with each other, pour out to each other, and share their stories with each other. I'm like, oh, yeah, no problem, man. You know how hard that is? You know how tough it is for us in fellowship, for us to get together? If I were to ask another pastor, if I were to ask another youth leader, hey, how are you doing? Man, I'm great, man. We had 19 kids in youth room today. Man, we did this fundraiser. And I had to constantly stop people and say, no. And yesterday for our breakout sessions, I told each youth leader, each adult, I said, we're going to take time to talk to each other and see how each other's doing, but you're not allowed to talk about work. You're not allowed to talk about events. You're not allowed to talk about any numbers. You've got to share your story. Share what God has done for you. Share what you're going through right now. And he put on my heart driving home yesterday, man. I had a good 4 hours to think and pray because Justin likes to sound asleep. And so I was thinking, I said, you know what, God, you're calling our church to do that. You're calling each and every person here to connect with each other and to be in these moments of worship. What happened yesterday when I got these adults to kind of get away and just experience God and listen to his voice and share their story was worship broke out. There was no music, there was no songs, there was just people talking to each other and the connection with God that happened. So if you missed out on those moments, if you need to experience God like that, I want to encourage you, man. We do many fellowships, we do many activities. We try to create as many opportunities together to gather and just to talk to each other. If you're going through something, you can come to me, you can come to leadership, you can come to probably the person sitting right around you and just say, can we talk? We're here for you. We want to be with you through this thing called life. There's a lot of ups and downs, and there's a lot, but God's tugging on your hearts today to open up and just experience worship like never before. So I'm just going to say a prayer, man, and we'll be dismissed, but I just want to pray that God would continue to lead us closer to each other, but mostly closer to him. Father God, thank you for all you've done in this place today. Thank you for moving, Lord. God, we know, there may be a lot of people out of town, Lord, but right now in this moment, you are moving and you are working and you are tugging on hearts. And God, there's people in here that are maybe going through some things that they think they're the only one. There may be people in here today that may be thinking that no one else has done what I've done, no one else is doing what I'm doing. And God, I saw yesterday in that moment with some of these adults, leaders, to hear someone else say, you know what, I've been through that too. God, to personally know what that meant in my life, to hear someone else say, I've been there. I know what you're feeling, I know how it feels. And God, that's why worship's not about me. That's why this life you call me to live is not about Nate, God. It's about serving others and being open and willing to lead and to help and to guide and bring us closer to you. God, I thank you for what you've done in this place. I pray that your worship, the praise will ever be on every single one of our lips and that we would share that with each other. God, someone's going to leave today, and someone in their own home or someone at their workplace this afternoon or tomorrow is going to need to see your light through them. God, I pray that we would all be willing to share that light and that we would experience these intimate moments of worship throughout the week so that we can continue to be your hands and feet. Lord, I love you. Thank you for each and every person that's here. Continue to lead us and guide us. God, help us continue to reach families for you no matter what it takes and to put you first. In your name I pray. And everybody said,